prioritize that investigation, right? Okay, so what I'm going to cover is like, how online research can compromise those investigations. The cautions of using these things that we get comfortable using, like incognito mode, private mode, and all those things, and hey, and a VPN. And then we're going to talk about the differences between non-attribution, misattribution, and managed attribution. And any time during this thing of mine, please, if you have a question, raise your hand. We'll address it. Also, my boss is in the background to make sure I don't say anything stupid. So he's there for the QC part of this. So let's talk about open source, right? So if you've been around, in the last 10 years or so and been paying attention to like open source intelligence and investigations, right? It used to just be like if you were like maybe if you worked in law enforcement, or you were just some guy that creeped on your neighbor or something like that, right? People would always get online and just do some research, right? They didn't know they were doing open source research. They just called it creeping, right? But as time has evolved and more the complexities that have grown along with us, these are some of the industries that now open source has become a day-to-day part of, right? Brand reputation. Companies want to say, hey, who's trying to tarnish our brand? Who's trying to make us look not as good as we are? Fraud investigations, right? Trust and safety teams. What about companies that, knockoffs of iPhones and things like that, knockoff of electronics, overseas, Alibaba, not to be calling anyone out, but, are known for selling fraud, knockoffs of other hardware. So specifically, we're going to talk about, the common online research resources which are here, right? Not all of them. Obviously, this is a very, very short list, but these are not just the only areas for OSINT work, right? You can also newspapers, news, your nosy neighbor who's always gossiping, right? That's open source research, right? But specifically, we want to talk about this in the aspect of doing it online. I was making sure there were some transitions in here earlier that were really bugging me, and my boss got those out for me. So here's what we need to do, and then these are the challenges, right? A lot of times, maybe many of you are very familiar with this exact scenario where you're at work and you need to get some information. You really need to go somewhere and get something, but you're blocked by your corporate firewall. Or I can't get anywhere because I'm not allowed to go. So you want me to do something, but you don't give me the access to go there and do it, right? As we do investigations, right, protecting our identity, protecting our methods, and protecting our reputations is very important. But like I said, the challenges there on the other side. Risk of retaliation. If you're doing research on a particular APT, a particular, nefarious individual, you don't want to tip them that you might be looking into what they're doing on their day-to-day. So those are a big challenge and a concern that we have. Go to that. Okay. Browsers, we have to use them, right? They are useful and they serve a great purpose, but they do betray us, right? Websites collect all of this information about us. Every time you go online, think about the amount of time that you spend online on a day-to-day basis over weeks, years, and months, and you've always used the same browser, and how much are you telling all of these organizations, these companies, the personal things about yourself, what TVs I like, what I like to eat, what am I doing for entertainment, right? And if you take all of that information and then compare it with the little things we walk around with our pocket on, with our location data on, with our Bluetooth on, connecting to see how much my heart rate beats, right? 25 years ago, if I walked up to you and said, hey, I need you to let me know how many times you go to the bathroom, okay? What'd you eat for dinner, and what are you going to do tomorrow? Oh, and every time you make a friend, let me know. I need to know that, right? No one would do that, but we voluntarily do that these days. And so while we do that, and then we take that same information in the same place where we conduct an investigation, what are we saying, right? We're really giving up a lot of information about what we say about ourselves online, and now if we try to do an investigation using those same methods, then we are seriously convoluting the two. I don't know if anybody, some of you might not even been born in the 90s, but back in those days, if you ever went online with your AOL CD or, dropped it in and had the nice little, faxing type sound, back then, this is the way Amazon looked, right? I mean, it's just like it says, text and some images, some animated GIFs, because it was designed for speed, right? There was not too much, just text in there. So, and our bandwidth back then is not near what it is today, right? Man, you've got gig speed, sometimes even more. So because of those enhancements, right, we have come a long way. Now look what we do on sites, right? Feature rich, real-time scrolling, codecs, JavaScript, just videos within the page, right? It's just so dynamic, right? There's so much you can do on a website these days because of the amount of bandwidth and the technology. There's a lot more that we can do, right? But because of all those enhanced features and all of those things that we can now do with these websites, we pay a price, right? The price is we give up a lot of this information about what we're doing. Now, I know everybody in this room knows what a cookie is, right? Putting little information on your browser at the request of a web server so that it can, possibly track you from location to location across the internet. Not all cookies are bad, right? We're really concerned about third-party cookies, third-party referral cookies, because if we didn't have them, you might not be able to remember in 2 weeks what I put in my Amazon cart today. So it's not necessarily cookies are bad, it's just the type of cookies that we're concerned about. And because of this increased technology and bandwidth and all the things we can do, there's other places where we can store information as you go about your day-to-day, right? The web DOM, right? Basically, it's just a bigger place to store more information, right? That's all it is, at the request of the website, right? So cookies, webs, DOM storage, right? All of these things are going to help in building a fingerprint about us, right? So through targeted advertising techniques, browsing websites sensitive to investigation can leave fingerprints that expose the investigator, right? And then in addition to those things of cookies and the cache and the web storage and all of those things, these are some other areas of concern, right? Canvas fingerprinting, right? There's one sole purpose for canvas fingerprinting, and that is just to track your activity across the internet. And if you read what this is, right, basically this one sums it up right here. Instructs the web browser to draw specific text or shape on a screen, examine it, and then it looks for uniqueness as you go about your day-to-day. So basically, it just draws this little thing that you can't see, a little speck somewhere, and they're able to compare that with like a hash value, and they see that hash value somewhere else. That's obviously you. I'm going to keep going where you go and just staying on your tail to see what you're doing. Okay. Also, these are the other things that are, tracked as we do our day-to-day investigations and even your just day-to-day work and browsing, right? Websites have to know what exact type audio you have so they can render that content to you so you can make use of it. So they have to know that you're listening through AirPods or Beats or whatever it is, and then they create the audio fingerprint for you. So we're just building to create a unique profile and fingerprint about users. Right? Plugins. Well, we'll talk about some plugins here, but hey, plugins are great, right? There's some for screenshotting, some for changing my user agent, and we'll get into that in a little bit as well. But the more plugins that you add to a browser, the more unique you become, right? Because now you're adding something different to your browser that somebody else may not. So you create uniqueness. So, we always say in cybersecurity, you've got security on this side and you got convenience on this side, and you have this slider in the middle, and you just find your comfort level of where you want to be between comfort and security, right? And so that's kind of what we're going to do. We're going to try to get to a comfort level, manage our risk, but we think everything is going to work for us. Attribution. Concerns mitigated through different types of browser attribution. That's what we're going to talk about. Non-miss and managed, right? Whoa, that's two. I'm trying to fly through this so I can get on the keys and show a couple of things, and hopefully the demo gods are going to work with me today, right? Non-attribution, right? Provides a degree of anonymity, very difficult to accomplish, right? VPNs kind of give us a little of this, and we'll show, but if you have poor tradecraft while you're connected to a VPN, you can totally blow your cover. Thought this was a little funny thing. Remember on the internet when nobody knew who you were, right? That's really not the case anymore, now is it? Misattribution is providing false information, manipulating certain things about the browser or about our habits so that people really don't know who we are. I'm providing false information. Some might even call it lying, but it depends on the scope of work, right? On what I'm trying to do, right? So in the browser, these are some of the attributes that I kind of want to be concerned about and look at providing misinformation about these things so that instead of my concern about people tracking what I'm doing across the internet, I am leading them to a place I want them to go and giving them information I want them to see that doesn't tie back to me, right? So it's not so much about I don't want them to track me here, I don't want to do that. No. You're giving them the information you want them to have, right? And it doesn't come back to you. Managed attribution is exactly that thing, right? Where we control what we want, right? We are setting the playing field. We start from the beginning and I'm like, okay, I'm starting with a fresh, clean slate here. And from this point forward, this is how I want you to see me. This is where I want you to see me live. This is how I want you to see me work. This is the language that I speak, right? And now, none of that might be true, but they don't know that, hopefully, right? Nothing's impossible, right? So this is where, I'll wait a little bit. I'll just do a whole demo at the end, but don't let me forget this, right? So browser fingerprinting. Maybe you guys, who's heard, cover your tracks? Anyone? Right? Awesome. No one? Nobody saying? Oh, awesome. Hey. Okay. Sweet. At least you learned one thing. Am I unique? Browser leaks, right? These are some of these sites that you can go to see what you look like out on the internet, right? And I'll do a couple. I'll do probably most of these here in a second, right? Is that 10 minutes to go until I'm done? Sure. I thought I had an hour.
30 minutes.
It said I had the full hour. That's what they told me.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
All right, reset. Okay. Trying to kick me out of here already? I know. Everybody wants to get home, watch college football. I got you. I know. Roll Tide. I got you. Anyway, see, he loves me back there. Anyway, so these things are some places that you can go and see how you look out on the internet, what you're saying to the world. And so there's an example right there, but we'll do a real-world example here in just a second. Okay, so, no, this is where I go into the real demo, and then I'll come back here and want you to remember these things. Okay, so I'm going to stand here, and I'm going to get out of this. I need a real guy. There, okay, there we go. Okay, so this is an example of my, I guess you guys can see that, right? Is that okay? Make that be good? Maybe? No? Okay. Anyway, this is an example of my virtual machine setup, right? So what I have done, let's go and make that a little bigger. Well, I'll just explain it. So you can see up here I have my virtual machines, right? And then the number 1 folder is my base images, right? So with these base images, whether it's Kali, Ubuntu, whatever your Gentoo, whatever your distribution Windows of choice, I create a base image. This base image is where I add my new tools, where I do my pseudo app updates and upgrades. I keep it patch. I do everything to that base image that I want to take with me on an investigation, right? From that base image, I clone it, I snapshot it, I back it up, I do all of these things. And now I'm talking about doing this kind of locally, right? Maybe on your local machine, maybe your local network or something. But then we're going to bring this up into maybe a cloud environment. And the 2 things that we really want to be concerned with while we do this is isolation and anonymity, right? That's what we want to achieve as we start these investigations, right? Okay, so I have a couple images here. All right, I've updated them. I've made clones. Everything is good. I haven't done anything but update those and keep them active with the tools that I use on a day-to-day basis, right? So now I say, okay, somebody says, hey, we need to go find that guy who grabbed that purse the other day. So I'm like, okay, I will clone it and I will say, hey, clone this image, and then I drag it into my active case. Now, in my active case, that's where I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to create a sock puppet. I got my burner phone. I got my profile that I'm like this surfer dude, you know, who just loves to be out on the waves. I've done all these things. I am establishing the persona that I want people to think who I am in the place where I want it done with the languages that I speak. It'll all make much more sense here in just a second. Then, once I am done with that one, I will just drag it into my archive. And then I created one just to test my theory, and that's the one that I'm basically working off of. So that investigation is over. It's been archived, right? The way things are done today that we have seen in the industry, especially with local law enforcement, even in our own government agencies, is they might do step 1, but they'll just stay right there. They'll be like, okay, that case is over, and they'll say, okay, that's case. We're going to continue to do other investigations, but they never reset the playing field. So the environment of which they did the investigation will carry some residuals into the next investigation, because now you've established a profile, and this profile likes to do this, right? And now you go into this other thing, completely different. These agencies and the sites that you get are still aggregating all of that stuff because you've never reset it, right? And you don't want it to give you skewed content as you go up there and conduct the investigation. So if I'm going to start a new investigation, I will grab it again from the base image, right? Even if I use the same persona, at least I am not bringing the residue of the places I went and the things that I did. Ideally, if you can afford the budget or have the means or the resources, you would start with new personas each time, if that's possible, right? Okay, so start clean, investigate, archive, rinse and repeat, right? Then, oh, hey, there it is. It got a lot smaller when you hooked me up into this thing here. Okay, so here I am. I have a virtual machine here. Yes, remember my name and everything. Okay, so I've opened up a web page here, right? And I'm going to do a couple of things, right? I'm not going to do the incognito mode or anything like that. But the next time you guys go to incognito mode and private browsing, read what it says. It says, hey, we'll delete your history, maybe get rid of some cookies, but your ISP can still track what you're doing on the internet. Particularly, like it'll say that particular warning in Firefox. Chrome has something different, but they all say the same thing, like, hey, this is not like something that you should invest in that this is going to keep you 100% anonymous. Okay, so I just use Start Page as my home page, not a big deal. All right, so an example of how sites track us. Anybody heard of Thunderbeam, Lightbeam, any of these? This is a browser extension, free. I encourage you to download it, use it, and then in a week come back and look at your activity and see what happens. We're going to do an example right here. So here I am, fresh, new browser, clean cache, clean cookies, nothing, just brand new VM, and I'm like, installed some extensions, read the extensions, the descriptions, where they come from, vet them a little bit, see if you're comfortable with adding those in. So this one here is called Lightbeam, right? So what Lightbeam will do, you see there's nothing there right now, right? What Lightbeam will do is show you all of the cookies that are associated as you go along the internet, right? And not only will they show you the cookies, but they'll show you the cookie relations. So let's take a look at that right here. All right, so here's Lightbeam. I'm going to open this up. Remember, Lightbeam has nothing there, right? I'm just going to go right here. Let's go to, hey, we'll go to Amazon. We already talked about that, right? So go to Amazon. I'm hotspotting off my phone because I just really don't trust public Wi-Fi anywhere, especially at a hacker conference, right? Okay, so here I am, a couple of VPNs on top of this, so yeah, I'm really like slowing my speed. But anyway, I'm on Amazon. Cool, hey, I'm gonna shop there. All I did was go to Amazon. What if we go to, I don't know, let's go to eBay, right? Go to eBay, let that thing load up here. Note to self, next time I do this, have a faster connection. Okay, so that is going there. We're gonna pull up eBay. Let's do, how about Target? How about Target? Let's, Target, right? Public typing is not a great skill of mine. Target, expect more. Give me another, throw a site at me, somebody. Give me Facebook, all right. All right. Okay. LimeWire, yeah, LimeWire, I remember that. Okay, so I've went to, what, 4 sites. I just went to 4 places, right? How bad could that be? Let's just take a look and see how bad that is. I open this up, and now, okay, this is really not as bad as I had anticipated, right? So you see all of this is just Target. So all of these are third-party cookies associated with Target. Man, if we keep going, let's throw another site in there that's going to connect those dots. eBay, how about Etsy, right? Etsy, that'll work. Let's see. Then we go back into this guy, refresh, right? Still not connected. Oh, who is this? Facebook's out there. Oh, that's what happens when you try to hurry. Okay, come back here. Well, Etsy popped in. That's cool. It just comes flying in from the side, right? Okay, so you've got these little triangles here. These are third-party cookies, right? There's third-party cookies associated with Amazon, eBay, Target, Etsy. As I continue, if we had time, I would just open up a few. Eventually, this thing is going to look like spaghetti. And it says right there, I've only went to 8 sites, but I have 24 third-party requests. What the heck does that mean? Well, that means every time that I go to these sites, right, that cookie is there, and it's going to continue to track me across the internet, right? Now, the other thing is, this one doesn't really show, but some of these are third-party referral cookies. Well, what that means is, let's say Amazon and Google, right? Did I even go to Google? If I go to Google and Amazon, let's say Amazon and Google are friends, right? Come on, Goog. You can do it. I'm going to get you there. I am. But let's say that Google and Amazon are, I don't know why it's hanging way out there. It should come in there and play and be part of the game, but this is part of the whole demo thing, right? So what Google and Amazon, let's just say and we all go to Google every day, right? So you're going to have this Google tracking cookie, the analytics, and all those things with Google. But Amazon, you might go there maybe like once a month, or maybe like every day, like my wife or something. But if you went to Amazon if you would go to Google every day, but you don't go to Amazon, and I say, hey, I'm Amazon, you're Google, I'm going to pay you some money so that when people go to Google, will you renew my tracking cookie so I can also continue to monitor this internet activity? Because they're not going to get there within 30 days. So if they don't come back within 30 days, my tracking cookie is going to expire. So help me out. Here's some cash. And so over time, that's what's going to happen, right? Okay, so again, I am in a local browser. So let's get rid of this guy for a second. Let's go into, no, let's not do Chrome. Let's do Brave, right? There's a ton of browsers out there, I'm sure, right? Everyone's familiar. Privacy browsers, Epic, Brave, Vivaldi, all of them. There's a bunch, right? Make this guy a little bigger. Oh, you were supposed to be off for this. I'm going to restart you, and I'm going to turn you off. Don't you come? Yeah, so, hey. I'm glad somebody knows WinScribe. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, here I am. I'm in my VM, Brave browser. Use Brave only because if you go in, everyone looks at the settings, and you go down every single setting. Brave has a few more options. I like it, but, you know, nothing's 100%, right? So let's do this first. Let's do Am I Unique? Remember, I am on a Linux VM here, and I'm basically using a Chrome browser, right? Brave is based off Chromium, right? And so I'm going to say, hey, I might not have time to do all three of these, but I'll do at least this one to show you so we can get to some other things, right? So here I am. I go to Am I Unique, and it's going to give me my browser fingerprint. It's going to say, this is like that. At least I'm bringing you back to the 1990s speed. That was kind of the whole intent of this thing from the beginning, right? Yeah, modem sound effects. Yeah, who's on the phone? Okay, so hopefully this is going to come up here in a second. If not, I'll just go back to the slide, and then I'll show you what it says. So it's going to say, hey, I can see your operating system. Oh, we're almost there. I can see your operating system. I can see what time zone you're in, and I can see what language you speak. And all those other attributes that I was talking about, like your audio fingerprint, your time zone, which is there, canvas fingerprinting, all of the fonts. Oh, that's a lot of information that they're like looking at me, right? It makes me a little uncomfortable. But let's just, whoa, hey, work with me here, right? I'm on a Linux machine, and it says I'm on a Windows machine because I have this user agent switcher that shouldn't be on. It should be off, right? But that's part one. Okay, so there's the things that we want to manage. When we go out, we want to set this ahead of time, even before we click on our first Google link, right? We want to say, hey, I'm using this operating system. I'm using this browser. I want to be in this time zone. I don't want you to know that I speak English. If you do UTC -4, that is the Eastern time zone, right? What's funny about this, I'm connected to a VPN in Washington, D.C., but I go to Am I Unique, but it knows that I'm in the Eastern, well, not Washington, D.C., in San Francisco. I connect to a VPN in San Francisco, which could probably account for my speed as well. That's not UTC -4 in San Francisco, right? So what these services do, they're like, oh, you're pulling the time from your host. Well, this information is sent in my headers when I go and visit sites. So if I'm investigating something in Ukraine, isn't it going to look weird when I pass this stuff in the header? It's like, you say you're in Ukraine, but why is your language English, and why are you in the Eastern time zone, right? So these are the things that we kind of want to manipulate before we start any kind of investigation. And so again, adding these extensions will contribute to our uniqueness, right? But you got to figure out what you're comfortable with, right? So if I have this guy here, it looks like it says I'm already in a Windows, right? I'm on a Linux machine. Obviously, you saw that I'm on a Linux box right there. I'm sure everyone's familiar with that. But now let's say, hey, let's manipulate two other things, right? It's fine. I want to be a Windows machine on Chrome. That's cool. I'll do that. But I don't want to be in the time zone where I'm actually sitting and doing this work. I need to match my target's time zone so that I blend in with local traffic. I'm inside the geofence, right? So there's another extension that allows us to do that. One of the guys said it over here, WinScribe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look through my settings of Win. Please, go ahead.
So for the user agent switcher, is there a way to hide it being fingerprinted with your browser? Because wouldn't that set off red flags in an investigation? Somebody see that you're using?
Well, you can't really hide it. You just have to pick the one that you want, because then the sites aren't going to know how to render the content to you based off that user agent. So you got to have one. You're just not letting them know which one you want it to be.
Yes, that plugin itself, right?
The extension. So the extension can be potentially fingerprinted and identified.
Yes. Yes, it can be.
What extensions you want for your profile.
Exactly. Yes. You had a question, sir?
It was just kind of like backing off what you said. I do know instances where people can spoof the user agent.
Yep, exactly what I just did, right? So, and I'm in the process of also spoofing my user agent, my time zone, and my language as well. So those are the things. Yes, sir.
How much is the uniqueness of the hardware of the VM, even after it's cloned, going to affect your ability to hide?
How much, the question is, how much is the uniqueness of the VM? And
To be able, in other words, you have the same VM that you cloned that. So
I
that
did.
VM has a certain bit of uniqueness to it.
Correct.
And that might be identifiable in and of itself.
It will, right? I am cloning from a sourced VM, my main image, right? But I haven't passed any information. Sure, maybe the hardware characteristics are going to be passed, like it's going to say that you're on a Mac with this user agent and have some hardware details about that I configured in the VM. Sure, but that's stuff that we're still managing, right? I have that ability to not say what I want it to give. I hope that helps.
So in particular, what I'm thinking about is the JavaScript interrogation type.
Okay.
That where if it runs against your graphics card, it runs against your devices. That's not going to change.
No, it's not going to change, but there is some ways that we can manipulate some JavaScript and have it turn on or off as we go from site to site to not have some of that come up. I hope that helps. I should have thrown out my biggest disclaimer. Like, I'm not like a super nation state hacker or anything. I'm just like this guy that just likes to tinker, right? Done some of this work. I didn't even give my intro, but you guys read it. You can see I'm kind of a big deal. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not. Okay, so WinScribe. Let's go through some of the settings in WinScribe, right? So if I go here and I go to privacy, right, what I'm going to do is say, okay, I am blocking third-party cookies. Okay, good. Let's block those third-party cookies so that when I go to those sites, and then you would have to make sure that this is actually happening if you went back into the other extension. It's probably not, and then you just have to, again, clear them out or bring the new image down and start over, right? Location warp says, hey, fakes the location to your actual target area, and then also my language warp. So now I'm saying I want to manipulate the time and the language. So let's go back into WinScribe and let's set those things. Right now I said, hey, I'm in, I want to say I'm in Frankfurt and I speak German. So if I hit that and I turn that on, and back in the settings you have the ability to do that. You can see, hey, you're now connected, right? And so what should happen is when I refresh this, and after about, hopefully not 5-10 minutes, this will refresh. I'll still have Windows and Chrome, but this should have a different time zone, and this should say DE for, German. Let's just see. It'll probably bring me back to the main page. And then there, well, that was way faster than I could have imagined that would have done. So now you can see I'm UTC +2 and my default language is German, and UTC +2 is Central Eastern European time, right? So now I am pretty much set to go. If I'm doing an investigation in Germany, let me be in the German time zone. Let me say that I'm speaking German, right? And let me pick the operating system and the browser of choice. So now I'm manipulating these things so that I can get the information I want. I don't have to accept the default information based off my browsing history, what in my cache, my cookies, my DOM, my sound fingerprint, because all of that's already going to skew that. So if I manipulate this type of thing, then I have a better chance of having a successful investigation, right? Okay, so let's just say now that I have been able to do all of this locally, somehow on my network, right? I've kind of created my isolation with my VM, right? I've done some anonymity around, manipulating these attributes. Again, if I want to take that a step further, if I did have concerns like, I'm not really, this is good. This is really good. It's way better than what a lot of small, medium-sized organizations coming. Most of them, we've talked to some people, will say, hey, how are you doing your investigation? They say, well, I'm blocked on the corporate network, and basically I just get on my iPad and I just go to town that way. Oh, that's perfect, right? Well, how do you create any kind of virtual persona? No, I just use my real Facebook page, and I'm killing it. I am killing it today, right? And they are. I mean, but at what cost, right? What cost? So now I've got kind of the isolation here, right? I've managed how I'm looking, but if I wanted to take it a step further, right, what could I do? Well, I would get the code that runs locally through my network and executes on my endpoint. Now let's take it to the cloud, right? And then we're going to let the cloud service kind of manage our backups, our cloning, snapshots, and all of those things, right? So if I just go here now, and let's just bring this guy up. That's really bad resolution, but it'll work. I called it Demo Hope, hoping this demo would work. And so far, yeah, I'd give it about a 90% here. Okay. So now, actually it doesn't look that bad up there. It looks like it's, anyway. Yeah, so now here I am. I have a DigitalOcean droplet spun up, right? Just put a Ubuntu box up there, 2204, Jimmy Jammy, right? Got all of that. Basically, Stack Overflowed how to get it running, and it just copied and pasted some commands, and boom, and there I am. I'm running away, right? So now I'm going to do the exact same things that I was doing locally, but I'm going to do it in the cloud. I'm going to create snapshots. DigitalOcean, I'm sure you guys know, you can create the snapshot, use that snapshot for this investigation, snapshot off the original, it puts in the little squares, boom, boom, boom. You just do the same thing, but now you're doing it in the cloud, and you're ensuring that you have that isolation because nothing is going to run locally on your machine, right? So basically, it's the same thing. I've created my snapshots. I'm about to do an investigation. I'm going to just go straight out to my browser, and I'm going to add those extensions. I'm going to get everything set to do this investigation. This is also a very minimal VM, not a lot of RAM going on there, but you can see WinScribe's already connected, right? Or as it says, you are, yeah, okay, cool. Here, activate that. Take me to Germany. Give me my user agent. Yeah, okay, let's just see. Am I unique? Let's take a quick look and see how I have set myself. This is an Ubuntu machine, right, running just like the other one. This should probably run a little quicker because I'm running, from a cloud, but, I didn't put a lot of horsepower into this. So there we go, right? I am speaking German. I'm in just UTC 0, right, GMT time. I said I'm an Apple machine. I am on an Apple machine, but I'm in a Linux VM in the cloud. So now this is my starting point. This is my sterile environment for me to start, right? I can build a persona. I have my burner phone. I'm getting my two-factor. I'm integrating. I'm, interacting with particular individuals, right? I can do all of these things now because I've started a clean environment, and I continue on with the investigation and until it's complete, and then we archive it and we start completely over again. A lot of work to do this, right? Could you imagine having to do this for an organization of 100 people, 300, 1,000 people, right? This solution is good, 2 or 3 people, maybe a small law enforcement place, right? But what if you had 1,000 people? Like, this just doesn't necessarily scale that well, right? It can be done, but it's just probably not the best way to do it. So this is my shameless plug. I was listening to Quaid over there with his shameless plug. I was like, you know what? Quaid had a good thing. He had a shameless plug at the end. I'm going to have to steal that. I work for Authenticate, and what we do is we do managed attribution with a network as a service, right? So if you're interested in that, come up and talk to me. Got some cards. We basically just automate this whole thing where you click a button, you select languages, you select your user agent, you select your time zone, some automated tools in there as well. But yes, that's kind of what we do. This is what I have. I got about 15 minutes left. This is exactly where I wanted to be. I do have a couple of prizes to give up. They said I can only have 2. So the first one I'd give out is like, okay, I'm going to ask a question. It's pretty simple, and then this is your lockpit kit. Who learned something today? Bam, right there. Saw this guy right here in the red. That was easy, okay? And, okay, the other one is, somebody tell me what was the most useful piece of information that you learned today?
The extensions.
Extensions, okay. There you go. All right, swag's on. You're welcome. All right, now, any other questions that we can answer? I know it's a Saturday. People want to watch some football. What do you have? Yes, sir.
So to review kind of using the Brave browser, DuckDuckGo, WinScribe, and Lightbeat.
Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of, yeah. DuckDuckGo is just they say they're a privacy browser. There was some article not too long ago that said what they kind of leaked. That's why that's kind of why I just went to Startpage. There's a bunch of these private search engines. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but Startpage, DuckDuckGo are kind of just better. I won't say they're better, but Google's an advertising company, right? I know, and how does an advertising company make money? They sell your information. So from an investigation point of view, you might want to start with one of these others or not, because you're going to always start with a sterile environment. I do like DuckDuckGo for when I need to Google something, right? Because I will use a bang operator. You guys know the bang operator, right? So in the DuckDuckGo page, here, let me just do it like this. I'll go to a traditional browser. Don't judge, right? We're going to go here. I'm going to go here. Let me do this real quick. So there's DuckDuckGo, right? So if I do a exclamation or what they call a bang G, right? That's Google. If I do a GM, that's Google Maps. And you can see all of them when you hit the exclamation point. And so what that kind of does is, instead of Bob looking for cars and searching it on Google, DuckDuckGo would say, Google would see DuckDuckGo is looking for cars somewhere, right? Not me. Or even cares, something like that. So that's one thing I like to use, is kind of like a DuckDuckGo on instead of a Google. But because Google is so robust and the searches are great, I will just do a bang G and say, hey, Google thinks DuckDuckGo's it. At least that's what I think. Yes, sir.
So one of the things I noticed when you were creating the map of the tracking cookies is you never authenticated to the site. My guess is once you did, that map would fill up pretty quickly.
It's worse, right? And so thank you for that. So if you sign in to any of your socials and you just leave that open, right? Especially like when you sign into your Gmail and then you go to YouTube, you know how it says you're automatically commenting as Bob, right? And then you're signed into Facebook and all that. Your cookies are gonna they're still gonna draw attention with whether you're not signed in. But when you're signed in, now you're giving the identity of who you are explicitly. Is the way I see that, right? Yes, sir.
Do you have a particular process for how you weigh the pros and cons of like using a particular extension and the further fingerprinting that's going to get you?
No, not at all. Yeah, so all right, there's obviously a lot of information out on the internet, right? And, you know, like Mike Bazell, I always quote this guy. If you guys remember him, he's like the OG of OSINT back in the day, right? He's got a lot of good content. He's got a great podcast, a lot of Discord channels and Slack. But from a personal way, it's like when I see, if I'm searching for a particular function and I wonder if there's an extension that could give that to me, then the first thing I'll do is I go and I read the developer's, description. Where are they based, right? You know, if they're based in the U.S. or even Canada, I'm okay. But maybe if it's based somewhere overseas in a location that I am not too comfortable with doing, and then I will actually go into those Discord channels and go, hey, has anybody tested this WinScribe thing? Does anybody really know about it? And then people will come back and go, oh, yeah, WinScribe, it's cool. I've used it for about 10 years or whatever. And so that's just kind of because the OSINT open source community, we want to share tools and knowledge, like OSINT Curious, Trace Labs. Let's pick up my buddy back there. I can't remember some of the other OSINT channels that are there. But yeah, that's kind of my methodology. It's just, I was like, hey, what do you know about this? What do you know about this? I got 5 minutes. Yes, sir.
Have you ever heard of Dark Webathon?
I have not. Dark Webathon.
Do like anti-human trafficking.
Okay.
So they'll give you like hashes and different information, and you try to find where they, traffic these people to.
Wow.
So they do that like once a year. It's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. Dark
I
Webathon.
did the Trace Labs when it,
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did the last one too. Trace, that's just fun, and like that's a good thing about like Trace Labs. A good plug for them. Thank you for that. If you're not like really comfortable in doing this, or you don't have a lot of experience, the Trace Labs CTF that they hold, I think it's once or twice a year. They just put you in a team with people, and you just say, hey, look, I'm new to all this. I'm just here to learn. Most of the community is pretty receptive. Yeah, hey, I'm looking for a team to join. And before the actual CTF kicks off, you find your team, and then you kind of figure out what each of your strengths are going into it. But I've done it for a couple of years in a row. I just actually started doing it. I had so much fun. Now, you're probably not going to win. I'll never win, but you gain a lot of experience, and then you learn about other resources that people bring into the game for you. Anything else? Yes.
When it comes to like anonymity, how would you compare like a Tor browser, for example, versus any kind of premium VPN service? How would you compare those?
So the question is, how do you basically compare the anonymity of Tor versus a VPN, a premier VPN service? Oh, not just a VPN, premier. So Tor, is the Tor project, a Tor browser. It was built with anonymity from day one. The Navy guys needed some way back in the day to communicate anonymously, so they wouldn't know. Tor is fine, right? But you don't want to use Tor to do anything obviously personal because of the activity that takes place on the dark web. So a good thing to do, is when you build a cloud VM, Brave has a way that you can just open onion links. You hit the little hamburger menu and copy and paste the onion link in there. You could use it that way. But yeah, it provides fair. Anyone, please, if you've got more information on it, Tor provides a great degree of anonymity. And a VPN, it depends on the VPN service, right? If you guys probably know, it depends on what they log. Some of them say they don't even log. But here's my issue with VPNs is that VPNs are associated with data centers, right? So what takes place on VPNs is like a lot of nefarious activity, right? That's why you get hit with CAPTCHAs all the time, right? Because you're connected to the VPN and it'll say, something looks weird. Why don't you rotate this elephant until he stands on his feet? Can you find all the ladders? Or is this a bike, right? So there are good VPNs out there, like Proton VPN. I would just research the VPNs, but how do you compare them? I just think they're kind of two different places, right? I don't know how to state that, but yeah, please, go ahead.
Similar issue to VPNs is that Tor exit nodes are detected directly with these
Yes.
techniques and other things, and you will get blocked from open web, or you'll also get CAPTCHA loops.
So when I did the uniqueness, thank you. When I did the uniqueness test on one of these pages, it'll identify it as a Tor exit node, and you don't know that you're on that Tor exit node, and then you get flagged. That's why sometimes with these particular services, you get all these harassments of just trying to, remember your anniversary.
Some of these commercial solutions like
Another shameless plug again. Yes.
The other thing you want to notice is that your VPN exit node is in a data center hosted by kind of a sketchy service provider, which doesn't help at all.
Yeah, so he said your VPN, one thing you might notice is that it's a sketchy data center where it's hosted, which is not even going to, it's not helping you at all. So anyway, thank you very much for allowing me to spend some time with you today. And I have some cards. If you want to come up and chat, we'll be here. Thank you.